Cool. Cam? Yeah.
Stop trying to be so cool all the time and just enjoy yourself.
As always, the great Goodbye Lunar doing the intro, killing it. You'll hear him across most of our other podcasts and their intros as well. We love him over here. I am Cameron, here with Rob. How
That's
are you
me.
doing, Rob?
I'm good.
Doing, Rob?
I'm great, man. I'm doing really good. I'm healing from a tough football weekend. Which it
How'd
wasn't.
you do with that?
Shut up, Cameron. Cam and I play. I don't even talk about it. It's fantasy football. It's not real, and the fact that you're into it is a testament to the fall of Western civilization as we know it. I think that what I'm recovering from is the fact that like I normally have this rule of like I will not get inebriated on Sundays, but when football happens, it changed my life, and I drank far too much.
It's out the window.
It's out the window. And I like Sunday's my preparation day, you know, like, and so I've been so off all week because I have no, I don't know. It just sucks when I don't do like all my, like, thank God I did laundry before y'all came over because like it would have been devastating. It would have been like me going to work and just like, whatever sheets I had in my closet that I didn't know I had.
Well, it's not good for you because the team that you get excited about tends to play at 10 in the morning.
Yeah.
Which starts it off real early.
There's no benefit of day drinking. There's none. Only bad decisions come from day drinking, and everyone knows it because you can't go to sleep at 3 p.m. and sleep for 12 hours, or it would be even more, right? Yeah. Like 18 hours to get
day drinking only leads to day sleeping.
Yeah, and day hungover. It's horrible. It's like, why would I want to be hungover twice? It's too much.
See, I'm not only recovering from that. We then went into, we are now professional pickleball players.
Yeah. And
we did like 4 hours on Tuesday.
Yeah. I mean, so professional is a very loose term, but I appreciate that in your professionalism could also mean amateur in this conversation, which is fine. I guess we're not like being, evaluated.
I mean, we don't get paid for it.
No, we don't get paid for it because we're not good enough yet. Nor probably will we. As long as I can beat my dad, that's all I need in my life. Is like that's the line. If my dad beats me in anything, I can't handle it. But if I beat my dad, I'm fine.
Your dad's unapproval.
Yeah, I want him to feel sad. That like not like I want him to feel depressed. I want him to like look at me and go, "Damn!" Like I look at what I've made, but how it hurts me.
I'm so proud that I'm sad.
Yeah, exactly. Like a normal father-son thing,
Any relationship that you're looking for.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, I mean, so it's good. I'm happy with our pickleball explorations. It's been a very busy time. I've been finding that I'm trying now that I've been working a second job to make some extra money, which is stupid because I can't.
Which isn't pickleball.
Working. It's not pickleball yet, but I plan to go pro. If I want to play with the one where I play with one senior, and that's what I want to do because I feel like that seems like in my wheelhouse to really dress down an older person for not playing well enough, as I do most of my partners. But no, I've been working a ton, and because I've been working a ton, I've had to like figure out new things in my life to like, I don't know, be like organized or find things that like provide me happiness. Because I can't just sit at home and like, have any time anymore. Is so big. Like I have Wednesday nights or like my night, and then I have Sundays off, and now there's football. So like I've had to figure out things. I have had problems with my hip. It's not like I'm not an old man. I didn't follow the steps. Okay. Like I've always had problems with my hip. It's because I play at the summer camp I worked at. I had to play harder than everybody else. And I went to go kick, and a kid took my leg out, and I swung my leg so hard in the air, it pulled my whole back out. Like this is a fact. Everyone knows it happened. So since that was like, I don't know.
It's been a while.
10 years ago, and I still gets jacked up. So now I have medical insurance. I'm a teacher, and it's good. Ooh. It's Kazare, I believe it's pronounced. And it, I was like, I used to have this chiropractor that my work paid for when I blew up my back at work.
That's right.
And I called them up, and they were like, you can go to the chiropractor 30 times a year for $15 copay. And I like threw everything I had in my hands in the air. And I was like, I'm there. I did some quick math of 15 times 30, and I figured out it's a number. And then I was like, I can do this. So I went down, and the thing is I don't know. I don't know if I think it helps me. Like I feel better afterwards, but I don't know because I'm not like instantly like an inch taller or anything. I wish.
Yeah.
But I feel better. And then like, but I'm not sure if it's like just because I hear my body cracking and like I feel these things. But he also gave me this like spray CBD turmeric thing that I put on my tired muscles, and I put it on there, and I was like, ooh, like these are enchanted oils that I don't know anything about, because I also have an essential oil in my anyways, I'm getting too far down the road. And so he put it on, and I was like, this is incredible, like what is going on? He's like, oh, it's like it's anti-inflammatory and doing all this stuff, and I was like, this is incredible. And like those kind of things get me thinking. Like we talked about meditation with Matt Griffin, right? We talked about like eating habits with Chloe, and like all these things that I don't know because I grew up in Chino. And I wondered, Cam, I pondered, like, I don't know, are there other things that I don't know about
that you're missing? Stuff you might be missing out on. That
can give me more energy, right? Or or make me think s'mores, have the more of them. And and I took lion's mane one time because like my buddy Russ is like, bro,
your beard does look thicker.
That's a different mane. This is a mushroom. And I tried to take, because he said it made him smarter. And I was like, hell yeah, because like I could, I want to go faster. But I think it worked, but I don't know, like I don't know how to measure it. So, these are the questions. I'm wondering, is there what is out there in the world that we could be doing for ourselves that we're not, and I just wish there's a way to find out.
I don't think there is though. Should we just end it, or should we see if we know anyone?
Oh my gosh, that's crazy, because I have someone here.
What?
Yes, an old dear friend of mine from back in the old improv days, which was some of the best days of my life, to be honest. And I want to introduce our the lovely, incredibly talented, eccentric genius of Sarah Barenberg. What's up, Sarah? Thank you so much for coming on.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. That's quite the intro. Thank you.
Yeah, we didn't prepare you really for what kind of ridiculous banter we were going to have leading up to it either.
But no, that was great. I'm all here for it. I hope the lion's mane made you smart.
I don't know, honestly, and like I think so.
I mean, it's got a lot of great qualities to it. It is a Chinese. Whoa, hold on a second. My cats are like full on Lion Kinging.
Go ahead.
Guys.
Ooh.
Thank you.
It's like a little Caesar Milan moment.
Okay, so back to TCM. It was like full on Lion King over here. Yeah.
You were saying about Lion's Mane.
About Lion's Mane and Lion's King. Yeah. It is actually. I was looking into it because it's technically an adaptogenic and not an herb, or from a Chinese medicine point of view, which is what I study. And so I was looking into it to see what it does in our type of medicine versus Western herbalism, because there's all sorts of kind of herbalism. And yeah, in theory, it should make you smarter and less inflamed.
That's incredible.
Actually, it works a lot with like your cognitive brain function and making sure that like things are going smoothly. Would be the short.
Well, I mean, and I didn't even realize that there's like different. So we were saying between like Western and Eastern, there's different like thought processes as to how it functions in you.
Yes. So it's interesting. It's interesting because so my entire family is in Western medicine. My grandfather went to MIT and studied it. He was one of the first people in our family. My dad studies gastroenterology. My brother does urogynecology. We got all the holes covered, is what I like to say. You're welcome for that, Rob.
That's got to be the family saying. That's got to be the thing.
Yeah, that's what our business cards say.
That's incredible.
But yeah, so I fell into this Chinese medicine through my own like mental health journey of sorts. And yeah, so now I'm going to be a doctor studying this, but it is a totally different approach than Western, because just the way you look at the medicine is this thing. Like one of the first lessons they tell us is like, think of it as black box theory. So like, say I brought a little mannequin for you guys.
Oh my God,
Ooh.
that's incredible.
This is Gordon. Yeah. So like when I look at the body and look at it from a Chinese medicine point of view, we only work with like what we can see and what's right in front of us, which is, you know, not necessarily what's happening with Western medicine. You're getting all these tests done, and we do tests as well, but traditionally we can diagnose by just looking at the face, by looking at your tongue, by observing your eyes. Your hands can be their own microsystems that represent the body. Your ear can represent the body. There's a whole bunch of different approaches to acupuncture and Chinese medicine to treat things. And as a creative person, I think that's why I'm really drawn to it.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Because that's so cool. Because I think like, I know like a lot of my friends who have like Mexican grandmothers would always talk about like the things that they would do when they were sick or something. They would like eat like we gotta like slap a chicken on you or something. They would say the weirdest things to me, right? But these like ways that we traditionally used to, I mean, that's probably the worst example. I don't remember what they said, but I remember being like, what? But that's there's these like, you know, passed down ancestral ways that we would like, you know, deal with illness or deal with things. And I think on some hands, sure, like, but I could see where the divide would be, like what you're saying, like with Western and Eastern is like the belief that like once they found out that like you got to make, you know, soap and there's like these microbes and we have a microscope and all this stuff, but there's these like ways that can be.
There's ways you can do it just with our body existing as it is. You know, we all come into this. I also like it because there's a lot of philosophical elements to the study of this type of medicine. So for instance, all the organs in your body, when looking at it from Chinese medicine, correspond to an emotion or a different soul that you have. So like you'll have like your physical body, you have your corporal soul, you have like your ancestors. There's different ways to approach it from that. Or even like you guys were talking in the intro about like sadness. And I immediately thought like, you know, that is to your lungs immediately is grief, sorrow, and sadness. And we are in this pandemic time, ironically, with a pandemic that, you know, is heavily involved with our lungs too, is at play.
Yeah. So
yeah, there's a lot of different ways to look at it. It's just a matter of which way you guys want to jump in.
There's so many things. I'm so fascinated by this because like, because in my head, I'm like, there's gotta be these like why do we always have to divide these things? And like, this is my camp. And like that other stuff is bullshit. When I think there's like things to be learned from both of them, because in my belief, like at least where we are, you know, and I think more globally, at least in the United States, in some regions, we having a renaissance of like the spiritual self, right?
Yes.
Like, Cam keeps trying to invite me to the sound bowl thing. What is that? What is that called?
Bath.
Sound baths.
And I really want to go because it sounds wonderful. But
there's no water involved, so you'll be okay.
Yes, I don't. I only take air baths.
Great.
And my great fear of water. It's because my mom told me there was a shark in a pond in a park one time, and I've been terrified of it.
You're like, yes, it is there.
I assume they're everywhere now.
Yeah.
But okay, so what has been like the most, I don't want to make this like huge, right? But like, I know there's like some, like, what have you attached most to? Like, what was the thing you're like, aha, this is like for me. And I know it because like, I guess what I'm asking is like, there has to be a point where you go like, this is like true to me. Right. And I believe like, was there like a moment where you're like, this is all making sense?
100%. So I was probably getting treatments on my own for about a year at that point. And like you were saying, it was great for a while because insurance would cover it.
Right. Yeah.
And so I was going every week and seeing different practitioners and having not just like emotional breakthroughs, but like my TMJ was getting better. I have insomnia. I was sleeping better. My digestion was improving. Just all these like minor inconveniences that a lot of us live with, I was able to like move aside. And then there was one day in particular where I walked in and was just planning on treating my TMJ, my jaw. And my practitioner looked at me and she goes, no, really tell me what's going on. She knew there was something else. And she was right. I was having a very emotional day. I, probably in any other situation would have just shoved it down, waited till I got home and then like dealt with it then. But this practitioner had the wherewithal to know that like there are other things happening. And she takes that in, like I said, from, looking at everything from my facial complexion to taking my pulse to looking at my tongue, and then just the basics of talking and asking your patient. Like, how many times does your doctor sit and ask you genuinely, how do you feel today emotionally, not just physically, but emotionally? So I have the treatment, I lay on the table, and she puts a needle in my hand and I immediately start crying, but it wasn't from pain. It wasn't like getting stabbed. It wasn't that. It was literally like she put the needle in and I felt like I was having like I felt like I was crying in an office where I shouldn't be crying. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I don't know. I was like, I don't know what's happening. And my practitioner turned to me and she goes, no, I did that. I'm helping you move through the emotion. Which, as somebody who takes SSRIs for depression, found this very interesting. And I was like, hold up, there's other ways I can, deal with that. So that was the big moment where I was like, this woman made me cry on a table, and it wasn't from pain. It was, she helped me move through an emotional reaction to something. And then I had the rest of my day to like, go about normally. And then it was from there where I was like, all right, I got to take a class. I need to learn more about this because it feels like magic. And what you learn the more you're in it is that
it's magic.
It's magic. it's magic it's mathematical magic, I guess. And a lot of chemistry. But
I mean, that's like that. Like I got goosebumps because like I think that's so amazing that you could just like have somebody go like, oh yeah, like I recognize how you're feeling, and here, let me release some of that for you in a way that's like attached to like a philosophy and a study and like a science that they're doing all at the same time. And that's so cool. I didn't even know that was possible, because I always thought acupuncture, the only thing I knew about acupuncture was when I saw it in The Nutty Professor to try to get him from stop eating. And they had so many needles in him that it was just like, he didn't have any more needles, and he's like, he's hungry. And he's like, yes. And that's all I knew about acupuncture.
Yeah. I mean, same. I mean, you can even look at that new Hulu show and there's Melissa McCarthy with a ton of needles in her face. And I took a screenshot and I was like, all right, which of these are actually accurate? And there are a few that are, but then there's a ton of them that are obviously like just for the bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, we all come to it. What's up?
Was there someone that like recommended this to you, or like
my dentist
told you?
Actually? Yeah, because because of TMJ, my jaw, I was actually assisting at the time in the entertainment industry. I was working for a music manager, and I was very, very stressed. It was not a job environment that I thrive in. And so I was seeing treatments, and I went to the dentist and I was like, my jaw is clicking. Like it was like full on dislocating. And I was like, I don't know why. And she's like, you're stressed. And I was like, well, I hear Botox would be great for this. And my dentist looked at me and she goes, don't do Botox. She goes, try acupuncture first. And I was like, really? Like, you want me to put needles in my jaw? Like, that feels a little questionable, right? Like, and so I started going and I'm like, no, that was one of the only things. Like, I was literally sitting at work with ice packs on my face. I'm not exaggerating. My boss thought I was insane because like my jaw was in so much pain. And then, yeah, I learned that acupuncture is actually really great with it. And now I'm able to basically treat it myself at home. And that's the other reason I really like this medicine, especially in the US right now, is it allows people to have tools at their fingertips if they choose to. Granted, I always say, like, please go to a practitioner, especially when you're dealing with herbs. Do not needle yourself. But this medicine was, yeah, you'd be surprised what you could say to people.
Sure.
But that being said, like this medicine was made to be like battleground medicine to help you out in the field that you could train anybody on, and then they could go out and do it. Wow. So that's just some of the history with it too, of why I really like it. Yeah.
That's really interesting because I get Botox, different type of Botox, like not the name brand Botox, but I get Botox in my leg because I have a lot of like muscle tightness from an injury.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my doctor one day about like how I feel the loosest like the day I get the shots.
Yep.
And because it's more of a long-term thing for me with the Botox in the leg, but he also recommended going to acupuncture
100%
to do it as well, which kind of surprised me a little bit.
So just to show you an example of like how you don't even need needles necessarily, like, yes, they are a great tool, but with the right practitioner, you don't even need needles. My mom is in her 60s and has had a frozen shoulder for like a year now that like she was seeing a physical therapist for a bit, but like as a woman in her 60s, COVID hits, you know, other comorbidities. She said, screw it, I'm not going to a doctor's office. So it got a little worse. I didn't see her for a whole year. I see her a month later. I go, well, let me get in there and do some massage and some adjustments. And just like, I just wanted to see what acupressure would do on the points from what I knew with needling. And what was interesting with it, I'll bring my model back out, is the body mirrors in a lot of places. So if you have a patient, like say with your leg, for instance, you don't want a shot directly in the point, we may go to your arm or your shoulder because your pelvis area mimics this part of your body, the top part of your body, for those who are listening. So we may go here and on your shoulder to try to work with your knee or something like that. So some people may get frustrated with the medicine because it can take longer to get results. However, it's nice if you want options that are in some ways less invasive, or if you are in a situation like COVID now, where it may be harder to see a doctor, it may be harder to get into the ER if you have an injury. We have a clinic now on our campus that we're seeing very interesting cases come in because of COVID.
Right.
And it's just showing, and even more now, just in the last couple of weeks, the FDA has approved clinical trials with Chinese medicine to treat COVID, which is being shown to, well, in early cases, there's different stages for COVID, different formulas you can use. But at UCLA now, they're looking into that further and doing actual studies on it. So it's an exciting time to be learning acupuncture and Chinese medicine for sure.
So just to get more specific, instead of just kind of broadly, what are some practices in Chinese medicine and herbalism, like acupuncture? Or before we jumped on, you were talking about cupping.
Yeah.
What are some like practical practices that are involved in that stuff?
So the overall I like to explain to people is that you can think of Chinese medicine as you're trying to work with your blood and your qi in your body. The qi being, there's not a great translation in English, but we'll just say energy for now, that you're taking in from the food you eat, from the air you breathe, to what you're born with genetically. And with different parts of Chinese medicine, you are basically pulling all these different pulleys and levers to make sure that your patient's qi is balanced, that their yin and yang becomes balanced. And different parts of the body can be more yin, more yang. And then that's where the different modalities that we use come in, which would be acupuncture, which we have different size needles that go into different points, acupressure. There is Tui Na, which is a form of massage therapy that we use, and cupping, which a lot of people are familiar with. There's air cupping and fire cupping, which using, air versus fire is going to have a very different effect on your body, not just physically, but emotionally too. So it's about combining all these things. So say if you walk into a practice, you'll probably have like a 20 to 25 minute treatment that may include a little bit of massage on the areas that like we may be needling. Maybe you need cupping that day, or moxibustion, which is like burning incense and herbs directly onto the points, which I think is really cool. And a lot of people respond well to that as a form of treatment, I guess. Did that help explain? I know
Yeah.
I read a little.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the coolest thing I've ever heard. Like, I think I don't, because it's funny because it coincides with like a lot of the stuff I think like Cam and I have been talking about here, and like things that I've been thinking about, even with like teaching my students acting, right? Where like it's becoming the study of like the energy that we have, because we study this book called Freeing the Natural Voice, and she combines like yoga and imagery and understanding how your voice works, but using it in an energy sense. And she's like, well, you get when you want to speak, it's a need, and you get an impulse that goes down your spine, and it causes your body to respond to it. It's always like the bigger the impulse, the bigger the voice, the bigger the breath, the bigger the thing. And I'm like, we start talking about all this communication, like, what is it really? Like, it's manipulation of energy, and you're sharing yours with other people. And then when you look at like what you're studying, this, Eastern medicine or Chinese medicine, it's the study of it inside of you, and how it's like manipulating you based on all these factors. And I think that's makes so much sense.
But they also, I would say Chinese medicine also values community and supporting each other and having a more pluralistic view of health. It's not just about your physical body. They take into account joy and rest and aging and family into all over health. And then another modality that I just thought of with you talking about, clearing the voice and working in theater, is we use a lot of Qigong and Tai Chi. That is something that is part of our, like it is a whole section that we have to learn about at school, because movement and controlling the breath and making noise is such an important part of controlling your chi and making it go where you want it to go. Like there's different sounds that go to different organs. And we talked a lot in one of my classes recently about just telling people to hum. If people are having trouble connecting with their voice, or don't know how to get to it, you can just tell them to hum. And just feel how it resonates. Can they make it louder, softer? Can they bring it down, up? And that helps them connect in different ways. And even with Qigong, there's, laughing Qigong, which you may have a he, which I honestly don't know what organ that would go to, maybe like a liver, versus a ha, which would be like your heart or something more boisterous like that. And those are considered forms of therapy. So
that's so fascinating, because we've been talking as well. Like, I'm just trying to compare these two things. I think it's brilliant, because we've been talking about how just in like the consonants, because you're cutting the air, like an intellectual sound, and your vowels are actually this emotional sound, because it's a free flowing part of your voice, and it comes from different like areas, and how the sounds that they create affect us in different ways, like even the way we express ourselves and emotionally. And when you say stuff like that, like it's funny how it all kind of connects in this weird way of like, it makes more sense to me now, of like, you're talking about it in this way of like, it's connected to an organ. It actually, like, your ability to resonate and increase the volume can, like, where it comes from can change your chi and things like that. That's fucking blows my mind. I'm so excited.
It's nuts. Like, if you've ever read, I think it's called The Art of Peace. It's either The Art of Peace or The Art of War, one or the other. But it's about Tai Chi and like the Shaolin approach. And it's like, these guys can like cut you down with just like a tap, because of the control they have of their chi. Like, you watch these videos and it's just so fluid and smooth. But if they were to make contact with you, like, it would have some brutal impact there. And that's all just cultivation of chi. And you can start doing that at such a young age, all the way. Like, that's something I've been asking my parents to do throughout COVID, is please try to do some type of qigong or like yoga practice, because it has been shown just to like keep your constitution stronger. And
Yeah.
it's also a way to do it that you're not getting like, you know, overworked exercising like some people, you know, grandparents aren't going to want to do.
Absolutely.
That's a great segue into a question I had for you. How do with your family being like doctors of Western medicine, how do they feel about you going to the school and learning all of this?
I think they love it now. At first, I think they were a little surprised. You know, it's a big jump from comedy to Chinese medicine, or you know, without knowing. But what's funny is like, honestly, it was people I met through the comedy community who ultimately convinced me to go back to school. It was people that were comedians that were also sound healers or herbalists or hypnotherapists. And I think the more I'm in school and like, you know, I'm practicing with my mother's shoulder and like helping my brother out with questions he may have. And now they're seeing like the benefits of it throughout their practice versus before I wouldn't say that they necessarily cared about an integrative approach.
Yeah.
Versus now it's very much like a goal of my brother and I's to work together and try to integrate healthcare in a true way. Hopefully that's possible.
It's exposure, right? To like the ideas and like actually believing it, because
exactly.
I think a lot of the things that I think are the same way, like with yoga, I was always like, whatever, you know, and then like meditation, I was like, I could never do it. And then you start hearing from people talk to you about it, or Chinese medicine, another thing where I was like, acupuncture, like we've been talking about that. I don't know enough about it, but like hearing you talk about it, I'm like, when are you starting your practice and can I be your first patient?
Soon. I'll be in clinic soon.
That's so awesome.
I think we're seeing a lot of that integration too in like professional athletes. Like quite often you see these guys go into recovery and get surgery, and then you see the cupping marks on them, or they're like football teams are now doing yoga before
it's like a badge of honor.
And they're integrated. There's a lot of integration in recovery in these professional athletes and Olympians that you kind of see in the forefront.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's hopefully a tool that they will continue to use in the future. I know that my school, Emperor's College in Santa Monica, in the past has been involved with Olympic athletes in the treatment of that, because it is great for any type of injury or trigger point work, or I mean, there's just so much you can do with it. It's just a matter of like knowing how to pull the levers, like I said, and then having the right instruction too. I will say I'm very lucky that like my instructors at school are people who've done the research, who write the books, who like they are, you know, they've been studying acupuncture since it came to America in the 70s. And another thing I really like about it is that it is heavily involved in social action work. I mean, it was brought over here to, when it was first brought to the US, it was heavily involved with the Black Panthers and opioid crisis.
Wow.
So opioid crisis? Yeah, I think so.
Well, that's interesting.
In what way?
Oh, go ahead.
You can use acupuncture for withdrawal. It's really great for that. And I would elaborate further, but I'm not there in my studies yet.
Gotcha.
I just know that like it is like one of the routes you can take is like addiction and helping people through withdrawal symptoms and things like that.
That's amazing.
I think we're seeing a renaissance in that though, right? Like it's the stepping away from this pharmaceutical way of dealing with things that we've dealt with for so long, was just like over medicate people, you know? And I think now we're finding more holistic ways to solve those problems. Like CBD is one of them, right? They're looking at like things with psilocybin and things like mushrooms that helping people deal with issues that they have, or breaking down things or making the brain work differently. And then now we're seeing like professional athletes and people, this is becoming something that people are being interested in, because they're like, well, shit, I don't want to feel like shit anymore. And I also don't want to pump myself full of like Vicodin or, you know,
full of stuff. Yeah.
Valium and things, when I can potentially find something that makes me feel better. That's also good for me, you know?
It's also, the more we understand the plants and the herbalism, the better we can make pharmaceutical medications, is the other half of it. That I think is something that's missed a lot. Like the vaccine that was created for malaria was based off of a Chinese herb.
Oh, wow.
So there are things like that that take place, and hopefully, you know, with the integration, and that's something I really want to push versus, you know, this war of pharmaceuticals versus herbalism. I myself still take SSRIs, but I do herbs every day still, and I need them both to function, quite frankly. And I think that's something that if we can open people's eyes to not see either as so black and white, that maybe our healthcare system won't be as overrun as it currently is. But
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I mean, it does, because I think I just villainize something that actually people need too, right? You know, and it's important that those, like, it's finding a balance in all the stuff. That's why I think probably the world is so bent out of shape. You say the, you know, yin, and is it pronounced yang? Did I lose you? Sarah?
Just kind of frozen on my end.
It's pronounced yang. Yeah, a lot of people say yang, but it's yang.
Okay, great. We froze for a second.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. You froze for just a second. You're back. You're back.
Am I here?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
you're good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's yang. I heard it starting to go out, and I was like, damn. Yeah.
But yeah, but like there's but I guess there's like the sense of like there's balance in everything, right? And like we're so out of balance as a society right now. It's no wonder. It's like absolutely insane. But so do you pick like like you've talked about a bunch of different like treatment styles. Do you pick one to specialize in?
So if I was studying this medicine in Tokyo or anywhere in Asia, probably you would be able to, you could specialize in pediatrics or cardiology or different forms. There's veterinary acupuncture even. Here it is a little bit more of, you got to know it all and kind of figure out what you're good at. So what I'm interested in right now is definitely the benefits via mental health and hormone health. I like to say hormone health instead of women's health or men's health, because we all have hormones, and we all need it balanced in different ways to make us, you know, feel how we need to feel. And there's a lot you can use this medicine for that. I totally forgot the rest of the question. Can you remind me?
Well, it's because I would say it's because like I would think like if I'm a person who's like, this is really interesting, like do I go to one person, or do I have, you know, for all of this, or do I go like I just as a layman,
you would be able to see one person, hopefully. So you would go see an LAC, which is a licensed acupuncturist, or in a DAOM or MTOM, which would be like the doctorate version. And they should be trained in all these different modalities. Some people approach it differently depending on, you know, do they take insurance or this or that, and they may charge separate for cupping. But I'm someone, I believe, just because this is how I was treated by my practitioner, is like, what can we do within this hour to help you, and what's going to be the most beneficial? And I want to talk to you about it. I'm not just going to pick. It's going to be a conversation, hopefully, of like, do you want to be face up or face down today? If you are, meaning laying down on a table, if you're face down on the table, we reach different channels on your back. Or the back of your legs or your feet, versus the front is a totally different landscape and organs you're working with. So it's, yeah, I like it because it's also a collaborative process. So you'll usually be with one practitioner. They'll leave you alone once the needles are in, or if you're getting cupping, that's more like a hot stone massage in the sense that they are there through the whole treatment of the cups on your back.
Right.
But needles, they'll usually leave you for 10 or 20 minutes, but you have like a bell or something nearby in case you're like freaking out and need to go or something. But usually, I mean, I've never had that happen.
Sure. But I could see
but
where
it's
people
usually,
could, like if they're thinking too much in their heads and stuff. That makes sense.
oh yeah. Well, some people, depending on what their deficiencies are in their body, will feel certain points will feel more intense than others, or
Yeah.
may feel like you may feel a dull pain and you're like, I don't like that. But sometimes we need that dull pain because there's stagnation there and we need to get, we need to bring more life into that area again. So
It's fascinating. It's fascinating. How much longer do you have in study?
oh man. So I'm hoping to do my doctorate, which will probably be another 4 years. That I'll be in clinic within the next 6 months, which I'm excited about. I am needling on campus right now, which has been great and a pleasure. And yeah, it's just, I never thought I was going to go to med school, but here we are. And
I'm sure mom and dad are really thrilled though.
Yeah.
at least, yeah. Yeah. They're like, it's close enough. But it's yeah.
Well, I think it's incredible. So like, okay, if you were like, this is the kind of point where we're like, I'm curious is like, I'm convinced, right? Like I want to go try this because honestly, like, I think that there's these like amazing benefits to trying to figure out if you can ease any of the things that are going on with you. Like I feel certain times, especially in me, that I'm unbalanced, not necessarily like chemically maybe, but maybe energy wise, right? Like I'm like, what the fuck's going on with me?
Mm-hmm.
And I can sense that. And the more that like I've spent time trying to come in tune with that through meditation or just trying to think about it or understand it, like it would be really cool if someone could look at me and go like, oh yeah, dude, like I see it, like this is what's going on, which kind of happened with my chiropractor. He's like, oh yeah, I see it. And I was like, really? It's real? It's not like some shit I made up? And
it's validating, especially when healthcare settings can sometimes be very invalidating. It's nice to have a different person come in and be like, yeah, I hear you. Like it's a similar, the chiropractic approach from what I understand is similar in that way of like, you take literally every tiny little thing in.
Yeah. The questions he was asking me, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm like, is this bad? He's like, does this hurt? Does this hurt? And I was like, no. He's like, oh, I totally know what's going on. I was like, oh, thank God. I thought you thought I was a lie.
Like, help me, please.
You know what I mean? Like, he's like, I see what's going on. We're going to fix you. And I was like, oh, thank you, sir. And it made me so happy because like, it just feels good to know that you're working. I feel like you're working on yourself, right? It's the same reason why we eat healthier or why we try to sleep more and like all these things that you start to see the benefits of, or even organizing your space in a way that makes you happy. And I know because I know like I've kind of, I follow you on social media. So I've seen like the progression of you following different things. Like it was, you were doing tarot cards, which is super cool. And then like, I started watching you get into like herbalism and things like that, of like you were making different things to, like these different blends of different things. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then when you got into this on a professional sense, I literally was like, oh, that's a thing, like
right, that's how I felt too. I was like, you mean I can play in potions class for the rest of my life?
I am the Half-Blood Prince.
Yeah. But then it's like, it's cool because it also works. Like I've gone in with a cold before when I was assisting and I was like, I can't miss any more work or I'm going to be fired. And they, you can use cupping to help someone get rid of their cold faster. Like there's all these tiny little things of like, little kernels of magic that are just awesome to take in with it. And I love that it's creative too at the end of the day. Like
and you spoke a little bit about like because you started out, we did comedy together and you came to LA to pursue that field, like, and you talked a little about like so many artists are involved, like, or you knew this from other artists. Like how is being an artist like connected with what you're doing with this?
It's brought me community in a lot of ways, actually, that I didn't anticipate. Especially through the pandemic. There's a group I'm going to shout out called the Moonual on Instagram, where they've been doing it. It's a really interesting Zoom environment because it's half comedy show, half moon ritual. So, you know, we have people exactly.
What?
And so, and not only that, it's not just people in LA. Like I've met people from New York, Philly, like it's healers and comedians from like across the US. And a lot of these people are like Caroline stand-ups in New York, and they also do astrology or sound healing, or there's another herbalist in the bunch. There's a Reiki healer in the bunch, but we all started in some type of art.
Yeah.
And I think that goes to say something about like healing in general and the sterilization of healthcare in some ways, of like, you need community to heal. Like it's such an important part that I think we miss, whether it's women's healthcare and maternity leave, or the work that death doulas do. Like it seems like all of these creatives kind of come in and they pick up these, you know, ends, and they're like, no one's, you know, tending to this area of the soul. Can I come in here and help with that? Yeah, and that's just kind of what I've observed from the comedians I've been around through this process.
Man, you were like, yeah, that's something. Actually, that made me really think really hard right now, and how like that's so. What a cool way to sum it all up. I love the idea of you need to like service different aspects of your like soul, you know, like and like that makes so much sense because like we detach ourselves from that so often, and I think it's like it's championed, right, to like you need to be vicious, and you need to be this thing, and you need to be a loner, and you need to be successful, and you need all this stuff that we see that's made heroic in all the stuff we watch all the time, right? It's like, you know, the Dom Drapers and stuff, and we're like, oh my God, that's the way to be a man, you know. And then what you really realize is that like the things you create around you and like those communities are way more beneficial to you than like the shit you pursue sometimes, right? Definitely. And especially in the world of trying to be an artist, I think that's why I think one, it stems from us wanting to express so much, right? Like there's so much energy in us, we're like, we got to put it somewhere. Like, where does it go? And I think also because part of times a lot of artists are wounded in some way or another, and they find that their art form like help to, you know, kind of
the wounded healer concept. That's a big part of the tarot as well, is they, you know, the fool's journey. You start with this character who's literally jumping off a cliff gleefully, and you know, you see him go through this craziness and fall out of a tower, and then at the end of it, like, the world's okay. Like, that's what the tarot is. Yeah. And it's just another form of storytelling, so it all can weave together like a nice little quilt for you.
I've had such a good time talking to you. It's like the best. Like, I feel like so happy now, like thinking about these things. It's so profound. And I'm so happy for you because like you literally seem like so happy. And even in like what I see on social media and stuff, I'm like, this is a person who's just vibing right now. And it's so cool. Because I've known you at times when maybe that wasn't the the time.
Oh, 100%. You've seen me when I was strung out and anxious as all, you know, like I've definitely been that person running from audition to audition, strung out, like not sleeping at night, just like hoping I don't get fired. And it hit a point of like, you can't keep doing that. And it's like, you want to enjoy the work you're making too. So
absolutely. So that's really, I'm just really happy.
I found it.
So. Yeah, I know. It's like, it's infectious. It's infectious in a good way, not in a COVID way, in like a community way. In a community way. Well, so we always kind of like, we alluded this to you already. It's no surprise, but I always like to hear like people's like advice. Like it doesn't, whatever you want it to be. But I think when I start to hear what people like passing on the things that they know, like, it really kind of puts a cherry on top of the conversation, especially like we just talked about community, and it made like a tear come to my eye, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna go look out at the sunset at some point today and be like, yes, come.
Cameron can hold hands.
Yes, please. Yes. Let's make a little community here. But what advice would you give to people right now based on like where you're at, like in your knowledge of this field?
Learn, I'm going to do a two-parter. The first part being
Okay.
learn how or start working on advocating for your own healthcare and for yourself early. I think we oftentimes put a lot of trust into our physicians, which we should. They go through tons of education. They are experts in their field. But what they aren't experts on is your daily life, how you're going through it, what makes you tick, what drains you. They can guess from their education, but they can't get a glimpse into your life. That's where you have to advocate for yourself. And that's something that I've learned throughout school as well. And so that would be part one. And then part two would be to find, while you're advocating for yourself, find those people that are going to champion you and help you advocate. I just think it's just so important right now, especially because things are so, I hate to say it, things are so divided. And even like studying this type of medicine in such a divided time is hard. So I feel like, and I am vaccinated. I do want to say that just for everyone. Yeah. But no matter how you approach your healthcare, just, be humble and advocate for yourself. That would be my biggest thing.
I love it.
That's great.
I love it.
Yeah.
Put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
We've got so many t-shirts.
Yeah.
Well, Sarah, I just gotta say, like, I thank you so much for spending this time with us, because I like literally I am going to investigate this now, and that's not just like, blowing smoke up your butt. It's I think that this, like, I'm actually really excited to go see, because I'm always looking for stuff that just makes me feel better, right? And whether or not that's like I finally went to like a smoothie bar, or whether that's like I finally went to the chiropractor, like I think that learning about this stuff, and especially with someone who's so passionate about it, it just makes me really want to go investigate and find ways to advocate for myself. So
yes,
thank you.
Is there anything you'd like to plug, or anything we should go look into or check out?
If you're interested in tarot or anything of that sort, you can look at Comically Mystic on Instagram. I'd be happy to give you a tarot reading. If you're interested in herbalism and stuff like that, you can go to Emperor's College online. We have courses you can take without being a student there, which is really great, and how I got involved. So
I love it. I so want to get a tarot reading from you.
Down.
I so want to do it. I also would love to at some point to have you back on to talk about tarot, because it's
I'm down. Hit me up when, because my knowledge is just going to grow.
I can't wait, because that's also another thing I know nothing about. And I would love to talk to you about it, get a tarot reading from you, and then be able to talk about my experience with that, like in verbatim. Because I've got some really interesting stories too. Where it's I'm sure. I can't wait. Well, I'm like giggling. This has been so much fun. Thank you, Sarah. As always, I respect you deeply, and I think that what you're doing is absolutely fascinating, and I'm so happy for you that you're thriving. It's so cool to see.
Oh, thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
All right.
Sarah was just a treat.
Honestly, there were times when we do these podcasts, I think about some that really stood out to me. I think Matt Griffin was one where we talked about after, where I was like, wow, I'm filled with a good energy,
Yeah.
All of them I have been, all of the people we've talked to have been really exciting, and I've really thoroughly enjoyed it.
You got giggly and happy towards the end. And even afterwards we talked a little bit, and you were still giggly and
and
full of energy.
I still am, because I just think a lot to myself, I know that I carry a lot of weight, right? A lot of anxieties and a lot of things that I know aren't serving me, right? And I found more solutions to those, which are getting more sleep is a big one for me, really paying attention to that, limiting the we talk about this a bunch, stopping using things that aren't good for me to deal with my stress levels. meditating. And like I said before, like I went to the chiropractor and I was so excited about that because I just have access now to like helping a little bit or like easing some of the shit that I don't want to do anymore. Like, and then we talked to Sarah and it's like a subject that I always on it and like straight up, like I always just was like, whatever, like if that stuff really worked, you know, and like,
She said something great because I viewed it that way too. Like I was like, get out of here. I
yeah,
always viewed it very black and white. And when she talked about how she wanted to integrate it with her brother, and that, you know, I think with a lot of, especially with like Matt and a couple other people we talked about, it's just another tool to put
Yeah.
in the belt to, you know, help yourself and help other people.
Well, it's that A to Z mentality, like you said, black and white, right? Like you want to like the solution to all of it comes from this, and like it's gonna make sense to heal me, or like I'm one step away. And I think it's more so like a lifestyle, right? Like it's an indoctrination of yourself into something that like is a thought process too. What she said that really like resonated with me, and it's been something that I've been thinking about a lot, was she was like, well, it's a study, it's about like community, right? And how powerful that was. Like it's this sense of community and family and ancestors and things like that, which I've been thinking about a ton, because I think a lot about like, you know, we get really wrapped up in success and what that means. And I think what we're ultimately trying to do with that is to get people to validate us, you know, or validate ourselves. And then you look at the things that really make us happy, and it's the communities you build and like the love that you create and like the relationships. And when she said that, like it really resonated with me, because I was just like, man, like, oh, you know, there's that like meme that's been going around. I don't know if it's really meme, but like, or piece of art where it's like there's the man wants two things, right? He wants to like lead his friends in the battle and like do all this stuff. And he also wants to like hug someone and be like, oh, I've been like carrying this for so long. I just want to be weak and like let my someone to tell me like it's okay. You don't have to be that at the same time. You know,
I haven't seen that, but that's
it hit me, because one time in my life that actually happened with me when I had a girlfriend and we got in a giant fight, and then I kind of like let it out, right? And I was like and I just said all the things, and I like kind of let my weakness out for the first time in my life, where I was like, it's because I'm of all this shit that I'm carrying, you know. And I was like crying and shit, and like I never do that stuff. Like I always like, I never like let loose, or like, you know, I'm a Scorpio, so I'm always like guarded and shit. And I did it, and like, and now I think about that stuff now, and I think about who I am now, and it's like I'm way more okay with my flaws. And trying to recognize them. Like we played pickleball last night, and I had a moment where I was so mad, and I can't control. We talked about it, right? It's like if I don't do good, and then I don't really support my teammate the way I want to, and I feel bad about that, because I kind of like I blame stuff on them sometimes. I don't mean to, but like I just get so angry at myself and like everything. And a lot of it, I'm like, well, why do I always need to be the best at everything? You know what I mean? Like what like I'm so terrified of failing and not being the most important. It's crazy.
And I think we're moving, not just you and me, but as a populace, it feels like we're moving more towards you know, you don't have to wear that mask out and then go home and, you know, drop all of that and become yourself. It's more of, you know, you can still be that fighter out there, but you need that compassion as well. And you can wear that on both sleeves and not have to take it home and take that armor off and then reveal the weakness.
And it's that toxic masculinity shit, right? Like you got to be like the breadwinner, right? And like you have to do all these things. And then I've even seen it like when my father's and I's relationship changed, like in the way, and he talked about that too, is like the way that he saw the world changed, and it's like becoming less angry, right? And I think about like all that anger comes from like, you know, really like not being able to just be vulnerable, or not being able to just go like, I don't know, maybe I like the stuff I like, and maybe it's okay to be these things. Or especially like one of the, I do at some point want to talk to somebody about, the impact of gender and gender fluidity and why, and get into that, because I think that a lot of things that I've been thinking a lot about lately is like, man, there's some things that I do that aren't necessarily like, there's things that I like that I would have considered like, not the anti-man stuff. Like, I mean, little stupid examples that are so stupid is like, I like having flowers in my house, right? Like, and I can go grab that. But like a long time ago, if I saw a friend have flowers, I'd be like, come on, bro. Like, what are you doing? Like, get a katana or something cool, That's the stupidest thing, but it's so interesting.
Where's your full sheath of armor?
Yeah.
And swords.
Yeah, for real. Or your car, right? Or your tools, or your trappings of this thing.
I think we get lost in, again, as ourselves and as society, of when we're young, we do the things that make us accepted and not bullied and fit in.
Yep.
And as we grow, we don't, grow into what we care about. We grow into these things we think we need to do.
Yeah. And
it just boils up, it catches up to you in a, and you might not necessarily see it until it hits the peak point where you go, I'm done. I need to start figuring this out. I need to look back at my body and like pay attention to how I'm feeling, and with not only my body, but my mind, and not, treating myself as what, I think Sarah said something great about doctors at the end, where they're experts in the field, but they're not experts to your day to day.
Yep.
And I think we lose that in, a grand picture of things. We go, I need to act and be this certain way. Yeah. When really we need to pay attention to our day to day ourselves. Matt Griffin talked about that with meditating. It's a lot of that coming back to yourself.
Yeah, she tied it together. It's advocating for your health. And I think we think that means like, I need to raise my hand to the doctor and be like, I'm not feeling well, but and I think like, I always attach that to like some sort of weakness thing. Like, I didn't go to the doctor for like 5 years. And even if I was ill, I was like, I can handle this. And it became like a badge of things. Like, I can work myself to the bone, and I'm never going to be sad, and I'm going to do all this stuff. And if I'm wounded, I'm just going to like put ice on it. Like
I had these pains in my like stomach one time. I was rolling around the floor, and they diagnosed it as something. And one day I was back on the floor just in pain, and my mom was like, we're going to the ER. And on the way to the ER, I was like, oh, the pain went away. Like, I don't want to embarrass myself and like it not be something. And we got to the ER, and they're like, if you would have waited an hour, your kidney would have burst, because you have a kidney stone with like blockage, and like you're going into surgery right now.
Well, it's funny to just laugh at that, but it's actually really serious. Like, people die from this shit.
Yeah. No, it was they said like 2 hours, your kidney would have burst.
It's so crazy. And it's and I think, and when Shell says advocate for your health, it's not just like I have a cold, or like I'm feeling it's like the whole gamut of like, what is your health? And that's mental, and that's spiritual, and that's your health in so many different ways. I talk about that Kristen Linklater book a lot, because in that we talk about like tension, right? We need to identify our tension, because tension gets in the way from honest performance. And she identifies it as like, there's oral tension, which is like this energy kind of sense. There's intellectual tension, there's emotional tension, and there's physical tension. And we do these warm-ups, like we do yoga to release the physical tension. Then we do some like meditation to alleviate some of the other tensions. And there have been studies about students doing like meditation, and I talked about that a bit before and how beneficial it is, but I've seen it in practice, like the difference that you can feel in a room when everybody's just taking a moment and like shut down and like let it happen. And like, it's hard in the first few minutes, but then I see this, and this is like, this traditional Chinese medicine. It seems like something like that I want to investigate, just because I'm like, well, what if this can help with things that, like I want to work on, or see if I can get, support in the things that I don't feel well with. And I think that's where it divides, right? It's like, you can go one of two ways. Is you can go, nah, it's not for me. Like I'm this, and I'm strong, and I'm courageous. I don't have to deal with that stuff. But I also think it takes a strong amount of courage to pursue things that you think are going to lead to your benefit. And honestly, if they work for you, whatever to everyone who has an opinion on it otherwise,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Well, coming to find out what we thought was strength might actually be weakness.
yeah, it's crazy like that, right? You know, and man, that profound sense, like community is so fucking important. I think about that so often, is that like where I was when I wasn't actively investing in like having a good relationship with my family and having a good relationship with my friends. And there was a time when I just like kind of didn't, I pushed it all away and did all this stuff, and I felt alone and lost and horrible, you know? And then now, like, I look at my like, you know, robust friend group, right? My great relationship with my family, the things we repaired, the time I spend and the energy that I feel like, or even like going out and making sure like I'm you know, contacting people or being nice to people. And I think like Play Upstream has been really great for me in the sense that I'm having these conversations with people, and I'm actually now like genuinely happy and excited for people. And I'm so happy that they're my friends. Like Sarah I was talking to right now, and I just felt nothing but gratitude. And I was like, you know, there was a time when, you know, like I was like, cool, yeah, same friend, you know. And then now I see her and I'm like, wow, I'm actually like really excited to have this person that I know who's like, and who is fucking vibing, bro. Like, like, and then you see that just someone is just like feeling it, and it's infectious, right? It's like positive energy. That's why I say I got goosebumps, I got giddy, is because I was just like, this is so interesting. I'm so into it. And it's like this weird catharsis, you know?
Yeah. Man, I need to get you on one of these sound baths.
It hasn't been from a lack of not wanting to go.
I know.
I'm doing too much.
We can set up like a private one where it's like our friend group, and it can be a date we pick.
Yeah, no, I'm down. I mean, and also like, it's literally just been my when it doesn't seem to be on the same day. We don't have to go over all of our planning stuff, but I really want to do it because I think also like for me is I battle doing new things because I don't want this like the stress of it. But I thought about that a lot. Like the reason why the chiropractor was easy for me is because I went there once before, right? So it was easy for me to just go and do it. And now I started thinking about that, you know, Chinese medicine. I want to go investigate it, but then I got nervous about like, well, where do I find it? Is it going to be good? Like,
are they gonna make fun of me because I don't know what to do? Am I gonna say the wrong answers? I don't want to say the wrong answers.
Hey, you got a shit, Chi. Get out of here.
Yeah. Oh, you're beyond repair. We can't.
No, but they want to serve. That's their job, to serve.
They want to help,
right?
Yeah.
They want to help and make you feel better.
Yeah.
And it's so fascinating because there's been so many things. I've gotten so much better at this in my life because I find that what it really is the fear of starting things, right? Like,
yeah.
And every time I've gone, this has happened with me, with you a bunch of times where you've taken me places that I wouldn't go normally because you're just like, look, just get in the car, I'll drive.
Yeah.
Right. And then I go and I'm like, oh my God, like now I know this place and it's in my repertoire. And that's why I think we get introduced to new things. We meet new people or forge new relationships or even romantic relationships. And you like start to change and you start to gain new things, like all the different, like, you know, girlfriends I've had or friends I've had, like, you're like, wow, I learned something new. And it was, there's a song that I've been listening to, well, there's two songs. But one of them, when they do some cool beats, but they also like pull some like quotes from things. And one of the quotes they say is like, you can't like see or decide who you are, but through other people, you can start to reveal like the person that you are. And I was just so interested because I was like, like, what does that mean? Right.
Yeah.
And I kind of got like a sense of it is it's like, we're always trying to figure out what we are, but it's really like other people reveal that to us, right? Like through our interactions with them or through our feelings towards them. And we start defining who we are because it doesn't happen in a vacuum. And I thought about that a lot. And it makes me want to be not a piece of shit. You know what I mean? Like I have to think about like what energy I'm giving forth to people or like, you know, who I want to be. And I think that's the revealing thing is that the reveal is that I want to be somebody who's like super positive and like is someone that, you know, like I want to build good community, you know?
Yeah. I think you're on your way. You're well on your way there. What song was that?
I gotta look it up. But the other song that I've been listening to is Rainforest by No Name. And it's like the greatest rap or like flow I've ever heard. It's like poetry. And I'm plugging that right now. Like, you should go listen to that song because oh my God. One of the lines is like, she talks about like how like it's like a comparison between this is how I interpret it. I'm probably like way off, but it seems like she's talking about the rainforest is a comparison like with people and like men, how they consume all this stuff and they burn the rainforest, and there's like billionaires and all they do is pit everybody against each other, but also a comparison to how that's a metaphor for men loving women, right? It's like this thing that they consume and they, you know, and all this stuff. And it is, I listened to it like 10 times while I was cooking, and I was just like sitting there. You ever listen to a song and you tune into what they're saying and you're like, oh my God, like this is like so profound.
Yes.
You know? And I was just like, oh man, I'm like getting it and I'm understanding. I want to start being better at like poetry is such a brilliant thing. I want to do it, but I don't know.
I think that's a shirt right there.
Just making, dude, we need to make some of these t-shirts. It's starting to get a back order. Yeah, I'm really interested in acupuncture. Cupping scares me.
It's interesting. It looks
violent.
That's a great word.
Yeah, it looks violent. But like I don't know, like I think the herbal remedy sounds really interesting. Acupuncture does. Like I'm really interested in that. I know I've talked about Matt Griffin, how he used to hit like pressure points of mine and release stuff where I had things, and I never felt relief. Like it was the worst pain I've ever felt. Like but man, I really think and I think if we really tune into it, we can feel that energy inside of us. Like there's so many things we don't perceive, right? And I try to talk about that with acting. Like like I said this a bit before, but we're manipulating an energy and we're sending it out to people and we're connecting to them. And then like the people who really make us, like even in that song, the people who really make us feel and change are sending out how they're feeling in such an honest sense that we're like experiencing it with them. That's empathy, right? And that's something intangible. We can't see that, but it's happening to us. Same with imagination. Like it's happening. It's in our brain. Like we're creating it. And I think all of these things that we're studying and practicing is making us more in tune with like this sort of thing that we are, right? You know, and I listened to like Sarah and I'm like, wow, I'd really like to hear someone talk to me about the practice of that. And like, I can't wait till I walk in, I go, just look at me. And they'll be like, here's, oh man, like I can look at your face. And I'm like, well, one, it's a 10, but second,
they pull out someone from the back. They're like, we're going to need some extra.
We're going to need some extra people. It's like wheeling a cart of like needles. So like, oh my God. I worry about that too. I'm worried about like, we always hope that I get a tarot card reading. Like I've always had this dream when I was a kid that I was like the chosen one, right? Like forever, like, you know, movies did that to me or reading too many fantasy books. And I was always hoping that I could do a tarot card reading and they'd be like, oh my God, it's him.
We've never gotten this card.
Yes,
before.
the ancient one or whatever. I'm gonna have powers, you know? And then I did get a tarot card once and it was like, yeah, you know, you'll probably find some money soon. And like, you know, like I remember being like, I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess
it was underwhelming.
Yeah, I have to just accept that I'm a supporting character, you know, and that's okay too, you know.
We need to have Sarah back on because I don't know much about the tarot stuff.
Yeah.
If you're supposed to go in with expectations, if you're supposed to come out, if it's representative of what you are or a prediction. I've got questions. We've got to have her back.
I would love that, and I can't wait to hear about. And I know she'll be down. I know we've got a few people that we want to bring back on, just because I think the conversation still needs to continue. Yeah. Right? It's so fascinating, all the things that we've been learning, and it's hard. Like that's why I love these conversations at the end, because I feel like I can encapsulate them a little bit as like what it meant to me. And one, I think that, you know, it's just an additional thing, right? Like that. And I also hate the fact that like if we could just find a way to interweave these different thoughts, like she said, it doesn't have to be black and white, like interweave these different thoughts. Maybe it's helpful, right? And maybe if we just took some more time to think about things like our community around us, right? How are we serving that community? like what are we doing outside of ourselves? We've lost that in some way, and I think, or at least I speak in generalities and I hate to do that, but I feel like that sense of community has been bastardized in some way been polluted by a lot of different stuff. And I'm really fascinated to see like this exploration that somehow this podcast has become of like how to be better people in our own shit brains. Like now I'm like really feeling it. Like I'm like, oh my God, like who are we gonna talk to next? And I'm gonna be like, this is gonna change my life.
Nothing but good stuff.
Nothing but good stuff.
Can we live stream when you get acupuncture? I'm sure it would add to your stress, but it would comfort me to see it and know going in what I should expect when I go in.
Not a guinea pig, bro. What happens if she pokes me and I go like, I start crying, and then like it's all awkward and you gotta turn off the cameras?
I think then I would put on more cameras. Because
why don't we live stream your acupuncture?
I'm fine with that.
Fine, I'll do it.
I'll hold your hand while
I already assumed I'm not going by myself.
Okay.
In the room helping me. I can't wait. And I also really want to do a reading. I can't wait. Like I'm so excited.
Can we do a reading on camera?
I don't know. I always I never want to. No, I don't care. That's not I think as you've seen it, I have no problem being super honest, like about how I'm feeling and thinking. I want to make sure the person who's doing it is comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's why I don't even bring stuff up like that, because I would be happy to, but I also don't want to disrespect the practice.
Yeah.
And make turning it into entertainment when I think like there's a balance of it. Like what I like to do now is like, I think our goal is, as we've been doing this, is these are real things that we're interested in, but the real goal is to like, I don't know, like talk about them and just get a few people be like, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
Like that's what fascinates me is it was honestly on a whim that I even hit Sarah up, because I just saw it and I was like, you know what, this is interesting. I wonder what's going on. And then we had this conversation and I'm like, oh wow, like I didn't realize it was so multifaceted. I also didn't realize she's going to school for it, right? She's going to try to get a doctorate in this. And that there's people who are practicing this and trying to study it to actually help and be like licensed and stuff to practice this. I don't know if there's licensing in it. I'm assuming there is. Because there's licensing in like chiropractic work. And I think that's kind of similar in the study of it, right? It's not recognized as this like thing, it's recognized as like some other thing, but it's fascinating. And I think that there was some really great stuff to take away from it. And I think, advocating for your own help is really important. And I also think like, I have these conversations with a lot where it's like people are really scared to face their shit, and it sucks. Like I know I don't know, I'm not outing anybody, but I've had that conversation with my mom, right? Where we've talked about it a lot. Like, it's hard to like make changes or confront things or try to get help from, because we've grown so used to just carrying that shit around.
Yeah. Speaking of your mom, we need to plug her little thing. I got a nice little.
Oh my God.
I bought a craft from her.
Oh my gosh. So Cam is currently leaping through his room to grab some stuff.
You got it done by Danny Crafts.
Yep.
You got to check it out
on Etsy.
She's on Instagram as well.
Yep.
Under that.
Oh yeah, her shop's on Etsy, but you can go on her Instagram and there's a link there as well.
I ordered this little Grogu.
Goku is a Dragon Ball Z character.
Baby Yoda. Yeah. So
it's
the cutest thing.
It's amazing.
She sent me a little koozie that she knit as well.
Yeah. The story of my mom getting into that is like super cool. Like she got into knitting and then it became something that like there's a whole community around it that she's been interested in. My mom's been getting into some really cool stuff, like doing 5Ks and stuff. And then she got into knitting, and then like it's this thing where
you got one day and I went, what is that?
Yeah. Yeah, I got one for my mom, and it's she knitted a baby Yoda. It's in an egg. It
In a
looks
little egg pouch. Oh, it's so cute.
it looks friggin' incredible, and they're so cool and well made. And then yeah, she made me like my Chargers blanket that she made, and like
She's really
there's-
talented. It's
Yeah.
quite amazing.
it's fantastic. Both you and Russ bought one after I showed you it.
Yeah.
And yeah, check it out. I mean, if you're listening to this and you want a couple of my friends have bought it.
I didn't mean to sidetrack there, but I just got mine today and I needed to bring it up.
We should have done that a long time ago because my mom does some really incredible stuff, and she's always super thankful for anybody who just appreciates the stuff she does, and make her very happy. And I thoroughly am proud of her, and I think it's awesome. And again, you know how that all ties in is building the friggin' community,
The community right
Support
there.
it. Support your family, right?
Support art.
Support art. Keep listening to this friggin' podcast. How about that?
On that, I think thank you, Sarah. Make sure to check her stuff out.
Yeah.
Thanks for being on and indulging us and informing us and making us excited for the future.
Yeah. And I think you are the Cast Pajamas, and I'm so happy for you. And I thank you again, Sarah, if you're listening. And check out Sarah's stuff. Like Cam said, this was a thoroughly enjoyable podcast. And also, Cam,
Yep.
I'm glad you're part of my community.
I'm glad I'm part of your community as well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me.
Bitch.
While you're advocating for yourself, find those people that are going to champion you and help you advocate.
Thanks for listening to And Sometimes Guests, presented by Play Upstream.
If you'd like to contribute, you can subscribe at patreon.com/playupstream or at PayPal at playupstream@gmail.com.
Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Play Upstream to keep up with all of our other exciting projects.
Enjoy yourself and support art.